We've known for some time now that in terms of using the power of government to try to protect people who've been affected by the coronavirus, for Donald Trump, the people he's most concerned about are those who are on Wall Street. And so we know he's been pushing for efforts that would potentially help the stock market, which has been doing horrendously over the past few weeks. And this weekend, he got one of his biggest wish list items, and that was that on Sunday evening, the Fed took the extraordinary move of cutting rates by 1 percentage point to near zero. The last time it moved them that low was in 2008 during the financial crisis. Trump has been asking for this for some time because he believed that it will be what is necessary to stabilize things and restore, some sense of lacking panic in Wall Street. Did it work? Well, as of this morning, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was down more than 2,700 points, or nearly 12%, as coronavirus measures rapidly expanded. The drops on Wall Street followed steep falls in Europe, where stock indices were down as much as 11% Monday. And that plunge just this morning wiped out all of Friday's 2,000-point gain in the Dow. So remember, he had that press conference and he timed it so that it would sound good, and then the market would close, and then the answers portion would come where he would make clear that he doesn't really have much, like we don't have a timeline for any of this. And what do you know? Wall Street was still paying attention after the market closed. And so the lack of real reforms, the lack of real support for people who are going to be struggling more and more as the situation progresses, that is having an effect. And to give you an idea of how significant this is, multiple times the trading was halted. That thing where, where if a certain amount is wiped out almost instantaneously, then they halt things for a bit. That thing that was super rare in the past that now just happens every day a couple of times. Well, let's put it in perspective. The biggest Dow losses of all time in one day, let's bring up this chart. You're gonna see that next to each other, right in the middle, those are only 4 days apart. You notice years all over the place. Like 1987, 1929 is a big one there, 1932 obviously. We've got 2 entries now on the top 10 list just from the past week or so. And we know that Trump is gonna be talking later today. Maybe he'll do something to make sure that we don't have a 3rd entry to that list. But so far he appears to be learning slowly, if at all, in terms of what people expect from the government response here. That's Trump. Now, thankfully, Trump is not in charge of everything. And so mayors and governors have been making major changes to try to limit people's exposure to coronavirus. Starting at 8 p.m. Monday night, restaurants and bars across New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut need to close to anything but takeout and delivery business. Movie theaters, gyms, and casinos must also close, but grocery stores can stay open. So this is not a full curfew or quarantine or anything like that. But they're going to be sort of forcibly enforcing the prohibition against crowds of certain sizes getting together, because they've been giving recommendations, the CDC has, for some time, but many of these places were staying open. And so restaurants would have hundreds of people in them at any given time. And that is the sort of environment where you can expect the possibility of coronavirus being transmitted. Now, they were sort of loath to take this move because many of these businesses had already, of course, been hurt. There's the belief that there will be layoffs and possibly business closures if this goes forward. To potentially limit some of the damage, bars and restaurants will be allowed to sell alcohol for consumption off premises, according to the governor. I don't know exactly how that's gonna work for bars. Maybe you can bag it up and take it home, but they're not in the business of selling bottles of liquor or anything like that. So we will have to see. So look, that's the East Coast. Big changes there, lots of stuff being closed down. Not everything though. And while Cuomo seems to be taking it seriously, Mayor de Blasio was seen at the Park Slope YMCA this morning. That's this morning, by the way. He went and worked out this morning at a YMCA as all of the power of government is saying, please don't congregate in these big areas. And tonight, of course, presumably that YMCA will be closed down. I guess he wanted to fit in one last workout. And look, I get it. When you find a good gym, you want to use it, but people are also watching you. And apparently, according to reporters outside of that YMCA, passersby saw his car and stuff and were talking about how much they hated him as a result of it. Look, maybe that's going a little bit too far. But we do have to worry about what messages we're sending. I've been very critical of Donald Trump for continuing to shake people's hands and not self-quarantine after being exposed to the virus. As far as I know, de Blasio has not been, but if we're saying people should avoid these sorts of venues, maybe lead by example, okay? Now, it's not just the East Coast though. Chicago is closing down a number of different sorts of venues. And here in California, Gavin Newsom on Sunday urged people 65 and older and those with chronic health conditions to isolate themselves from others as just a general rule. Hours later, Eric Garcetti, mayor of LA, said that LA bars and nightclubs will close and restaurants must halt dine-in service and limit their business to takeout orders until March 31st. The order became effective midnight Sunday. Movie theaters, gyms, and fitness centers also will be closed. Grocery stores, pharmacies, and food banks will remain open. And look, I would expect that at this point, this sort of policy is probably going to spread to large cities, especially around the country. And we've never really seen anything like this, not during our lives. And for a lot of people, this will seem very scary. It appears to be what's necessary though. Again, even these measures are not designed to make sure that no one becomes infected with coronavirus. And if the government takes this seriously, and if they start to make testing kits available, the biggest gap that we've had so far is in the ability to actually test people. If that gap is filled, then you could expect that over the next few weeks, over the next month, if this gets continued, then you will see numbers continue to rise. And I know that some people will be scared by that. Some people will think, well, clearly all of this was a waste of time if the numbers continue to go up, but that will almost certainly not be true. Understand that we have something like 4,000 cases in the United States right now as of us going live. That is going to rise. And the reason for that is that we do not have 4,000 people who are infected with the coronavirus. We have 4,000 people that have tested positive for it. And if we start testing people, those numbers will go up. But that will not be a defeat. That will be a victory because we cannot start to contain this thing until we know who has it. And so in the short term, even these measures, which someday perhaps will be pitched as, wow, we really overreacted, they are necessary to give us the time to just get an idea of what's actually going on. Get the numbers sorted out, get the testing kits universal across the country, and then we can start to reassess this sort of thing. It's going to be difficult, I understand. And I would only say that for those of you who are worried about this, you do need to self-isolate, you don't need to hoard. I would say that to the extent that this sort of quarantine, limited though it might be, will have a negative impact on people, that negative impact is exacerbated when people in a panic buy up far more than they need or could possibly hope to consume. And I will reassure you that while some things are shut down, you can still go to grocery stores and pharmacies, and there is virtually no reason to believe that the supply of things that will be sold in those stores is going anywhere. You do not need to worry about having access to these things. The only fear in the short term is that people will buy up far more than they need. But those companies are not shutting down. The factories are not shutting down. The food and all of that will continue to be available. You just need to stay calm and protect yourself and those around you. And by the way, it's not just in the United States. Italy has finished its first full week of a near total shutdown. Spain followed suit this weekend, barring people from leaving their homes except to go to the grocery store or pharmacy. That is beyond what I've seen in any areas here in the United States so far, although France has had a blanket shutting down of bars and restaurants as well. So just bear that in mind. They're grappling with the same thing as us. These measures might seem extreme, but experts seem to believe that they are necessary. So let's just do what's necessary to support each other in what might be a difficult time to come. For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.